Day 3, take I can't even freaking tell you at this point. Hey YouTube, I'm Devin and welcome to my new channel. My goal for this channel is to use both my education and my personal experiences in order to be able to give you a more well-rounded view of what mental health and mental illness really looks like. If that sounds like something you're interested in, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Before I got into the meat of my channel, I wanted to introduce myself a little bit. So here are the 10 things that you need to know about me before you start watching. Number 1 is my educational background. I currently have 2 college degrees. The first is an Associates with a focus in psychology, and the second is a bachelor's in psychology. I'm currently working on my master's in clinical mental health counseling. I'm about a year into my program, but counseling programs are a little longer and more intensive than most master's programs, so it's still gonna take me a few years to complete. At this point, I think it's really important to tell you guys that I am not a licensed therapist. I will not even be able to sit for licensure until I complete my master's program and complete so many hours of interning. So right now I am not able to diagnose anybody, give therapy to anybody, or provide medications for anybody. If you think you need any of those 3 things, please go and contact your doctor or insurance company and they will be able to connect you with a mental health professional in your area. However, what I can provide for you is information, references, and possible referrals in your area if need be. Speaking of education, I also think it's important to tell you that the schools that I have attended, besides the community college I originally went to, have been HBCUs or historically Black colleges or universities. Now this was very important to me for a few reasons, but the main one is that mental health has a long history of racism. And if I, as a white clinician, ever want to be able to work with people of other races, it is very important for me to be exposed to people of different cultures, but also study those cultures and learn to understand them better. Number 2 is about my work experience in the mental health field. During my senior year of college, I volunteered at the counseling center on campus. At that school, every freshman was required to come into the counseling center to get an interview to see how they were adjusting their first year of college. When I would conduct these interviews, I would listen to specific issues that they were having, whether it be financial, academic, or personal life. Then, once I figured out what each student's issues were, I could direct them into the channels that would help them the best. The school that I went to was actually majority non-traditional students, which means students not straight out of high school. Most of the students at my school already had their careers. They already had their families. Most of them had multiple children. It was my responsibility to connect them to the resources that they would need in order to succeed with going to school. Because going to school is hard, guys. It's hard. I have also been a volunteer crisis counselor for the past 3 years. My job there is to take a person in crisis in a hot, heated moment and help them figure out what tools they need to bring them all the way down to a cool calm. Many of the people in crisis who were reaching out were doing so because of suicidal thoughts or suicidal plans. However, that is not nearly everything I have seen while volunteering. I've been able to help people through a large array of issues, starting with suicide, but also including relationship problems, family problems, school problems. Between my internship in the counseling center and volunteering as a crisis counselor, I've been able to work with a very diverse population of people, as well as a giant range of mental health concerns that they are having. The third thing that I need to tell you guys about is my personal experience with my own mental illnesses. The first time my mom took me to a doctor for my mental health, I was probably about 6 years old. Since then, I've been going to therapy on and off. However, once I became an adult, it became my responsibility, and I've been going to therapy consistently for the past few years. The mental health diagnoses that I have been given are major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, borderline personality disorder, and dependent personality disorder. I also have a history going back at least 10 years of suicidal thoughts and self-harm. When you mix all of that together, it doesn't make life simple. Actually, it tends to make life very difficult. I'm so lucky to have had amazing therapists who helped me learn more about myself and more about my mental illnesses, so that way I'm able to cope and live a more regular life. I also think that it is important to look at and consider medication when talking about mental health. I'm currently on medication for anxiety, depression, and ADHD. And that brings us to number 4. I have spent time in a mental hospital. I just remember sitting outside my house knowing that if I went inside, I was going to do something dumb. So instead, I called my then boyfriend, who is now my husband, to come and pick me up, and he brought me to the hospital. I checked myself into the ER because I was having extreme suicidal urges. After they checked me into the mental health unit at my local hospital, they then asked me if I wanted to be transferred to a psychiatric hospital for a 72-hour evaluation. And at the time, I gladly accepted it. I ended up staying in that hospital for almost 2 weeks and celebrated my New Year's there that year. That time taught me so much about myself that I am so grateful for, because I genuinely believe I wouldn't be where I am today had I not gone through all of that. All of the information I learned about myself, about the hospitalization process, about interacting with other severely mentally ill people. I got all of that out of my time in the psychiatric hospital. I also got more crazy stories than I could possibly ever tell you guys. Seriously, if I wanted to do a channel simply on being in a psychiatric hospital, I probably could. The fifth thing that you guys need to know about me is that, unfortunately, not only do I have a list of mental illnesses, I am also chronically physically ill as well. At 18, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition called ulcerative colitis. It's very similar to Crohn's disease, if you've heard about that before. Essentially, instead of protecting my body, my immune system attacks the inner lining of my large intestine. Now, this has given me so many physical symptoms that I have to deal with every day, the two main being pain and nausea. And it's every day, literally every day. Fortunately, there are medications for these types of disorders, but what the medications do is suppress my immune system. There's no real way for the doctors to use that medication to target only one part of your immune system. It affects the whole thing. Due to the medications I take, I'm currently immunocompromised, which means that I am still stuck in quarantine. It can be really difficult to be physically ill, mentally ill, and completely isolated from every other person except for one. However, my health and safety are the most important things, so we're trying our best. And that brings us to the next thing on our list, which is that I recently got married. My husband and I eloped at the end of October last year, and at this point, we are so thankful for that, for many reasons. The main one being not having to worry about planning a wedding and trying to get married in the middle of a global pandemic. Eventually, we plan on having the big party and reception, possibly a vow renewal. But right now, the most important thing is that I'm married to my best friend. And while I love my husband and he is my best friend, I wouldn't change that decision for anything in the world. It has been very difficult being a newlywed in quarantine. For the vast majority of our marriage at this point, we've been stuck in this apartment. He's working from home, I currently can't work, and even though things are starting to open up now, neither one of us really feels safe enough to go out yet. It's really felt like a crash course in marriage. Like, oh cool, you just got married. Now you can literally only talk to each other for the next 4 months. Let's see if you make it. It's been so far so good, and I keep hoping that after this, maybe our marriage will be a little bit easier for us. However, I know that's not how life works. And that brings us to number 7. I just recently moved away from my hometown for the first time. Now, to some people, moving isn't really a big deal. I am not one of those people. Not only do I get emotionally attached to almost everything around me, but growing up, I never moved. I did not develop any of the coping skills necessary for moving. The idea of making new friends, finding a new job, finding a place to live, all of that is terrifying to me. And my husband is the only reason that I ever would have agreed to do it. I finally felt like I was starting to get my life on track. I had enrolled in school, found a job, and finally started making some friends, and then this whole pandemic hit. So now, I can't work, I have to take a break from school, and I can't even see my friends anyways. Essentially back to square one. Moving so far away from everything I've ever known, my friends, my family, my work, was probably the scariest decision that I have ever had to make. But I also think that it gave me a really good kick in the ass. I've been taking more responsibility for my own growth and mental health. I'm learning how to have healthier relationships with people, and really just learning how to be an adult living on her own for the first time. For those not as familiar with the mental health field, it is almost impossible to find a decent paying job with only a bachelor's degree. Unfortunately, the credit card companies, leasing office, student loans, they don't care if I can't get a job with my degree. They want their money. So at this point, I spent most of my professional life working in the restaurant industry. I originally got a job at a local restaurant my older brother also worked at when I was 17 years old. I was so excited to go in there and make some money, earn a little bit of independence for myself. Originally, the job was just supposed to be for the year until I could go away to college. However, instead, I ended up going to my local community college to try and save some money on tuition. Because I didn't move, I was able to stay at that restaurant for the next almost 8 years. I actually only quit when I moved down south to be with my husband. Being in the service industry taught me so much about people, about how to communicate with them, how to better serve them, and also how to deal with them when they're super cranky. When you see the same people day in, day out, trying to do their best to serve other people and make other people happy, you honestly see some of the best in humanity. On the other hand, from some of our customers, I saw some of the worst in humanity. I have so many crazy customer stories that I would love to share with you all, so if you're interested, please make sure to let me know. The 9th thing that you need to know about me is that I am a loving and devoted mom to 2 beautiful puppies. The first pup is Charlie, a little terrier mutt who's 13 years old. We rescued him from the SPCA about 10 years ago now for my 16th birthday, and he is now actually registered as my emotional support animal. Second, we have Sadie. She's about a year old, and we believe that she is a black mouth cur mix. She was a stray that my husband had seen a couple of times around his work, and who he decided to bring home a few days before Christmas last year. She's got so much attitude, she's stubborn as all get out, but she's also extremely smart. And we're doing something a little unconventional to try to test out her intelligence. I recently came across a speech-language pathologist that was trying to teach her dog to communicate using similar techniques taught to nonverbal people. Following her lead, we're currently teaching Sadie how to talk. Right now, she has 4 buttons with recordable messages on them that she can push in order to tell us what she needs. She has a button for porch, potty, play, and all done. It's been a slow process considering I've never taught a dog to talk before and Sadie's never learned how to communicate with humans this way before, but every day she still shocks and surprises me with how smart she is and how much she understands.
Do you need to tell me something? Do you need to tell me something? Do you need to go potty? Good girl!
Sadie and Charlie are our babies, and they're the only babies that we are going to have for a long time. Unless he decides to bring another stray home. And the last thing that you need to know about me, I am an open and proud member of the LGBT community. I personally have struggled a lot with finding a label over the years that I feel fits me and defines me well. At this time, I am comfortable using the labels either queer or bisexual. I'm less concerned with what your body looks like and more concerned with what's up here and what's in here. Okay, let's be honest. We all care a little bit about what somebody looks like on the outside, but as long as I'm attracted to you, your gender does not matter to me. I think that it is really important to show people that you can be a queer person in a straight relationship and still proudly be a queer person. The fact that I am in a monogamous heterosexual relationship does not change the fact that if a woman walks by, I might look at her butt. For me, it is really important to not forget my sexuality just because I'm married. I struggled with my sexuality for a very long time. I have had a lot of conflict with the people that I love because of my sexuality. I feel like it's quite common for a lot of people to lose parts of themselves when they get married, but this is one part of myself that I refuse to lose, and I'm very glad that I have a husband that supports that. And while this video probably won't be up until July, it is currently June while I'm filming it, so I want to wish everybody the happiest Pride Month you could possibly have under these circumstances. I would have much rather spent this month outside covered in glitter. But because it's not possible for us to have a Pride Month like normal this month, I just hope you take this time to celebrate, whatever that means for you. Guys, we made it. 3 days of filming, more setups than I can count, but I seriously think I'm done filming my first YouTube video now. If you've made it all the way to the end of the video, make sure you give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. If you have questions about anything that I've mentioned today, or you have any suggestions about mental health topics I can cover in the future, please leave them down below. I'm Devin, this has been Just a Mental Note, and I'll see you next time.